So Marichyasana B, the second form of Marichyasana, is pretty much the same as Marichyasana A, but we are in half lotus position. That doesn't mean that you can't approach it if your knees and hips aren't flexible. There is a modification. So let's start again with straight legs. For Marichyasana B, we want to create a half lotus. We're going to first do that with our left knee, and then we're going to put the right leg in the same position as we did in the last posture. So open the left hip. It's an external rotation. Make sure that you never lift your knee up and then drop it out to the side. The reason for this, basically, is that we're tightening all of our hip flexors by bringing our knee to our chest. We're shortening them. And then when we drop them out to the side, they open a little bit, but they still stay somewhat short. So it's much more effective, really, to approach any of these type of positions by opening your hip out to the side first, as though we're coming into what's known as Marichyasana. Now we're going to lift our foot over. There'll be a modification in a moment, but if you have the flexibility, lift your foot up and over, turning your whole left hip. That's a very important point. All of the movements of our knee begin at our hip, really. There's many muscles that create connections. So as we lift our foot up to half lotus, don't just lift it, but turn your whole hip around, bringing your knees closer together. If your knee winds up real high, higher than your right knee, you're probably not ready to approach this full posture. So what I'd recommend is place your foot under. All you have to do is lift your thigh, your right thigh, and place your knees together with your left heel by the edge of your hip. If you're doing the modification pose, that's fine. That's perfect for you. We'll bring the right knee up. The right heel will come to the left ankle. So it looks like this, sitting tall. And in the modification, as in Marichyasana A, the right hip is off the floor. We'll take the right arm forward and try to wrap around. So we don't get quite the opening for the knee joint, but we still get a wonderful opening for the lower back and the shoulder joint, the rotator cuff. Once again, if you're more experienced, try to lift the foot up into half lotus. Try to let the left knee drop down. You might need to open out here. You might need to open the shin bone as well as the femur bone and the calf muscle out in opposite directions to create space at that knee joint. Once you're there, once you feel comfortable there, we're going to bend the right knee. Now this is very important. Don't fall backwards. What I often see among very flexible students, but students who don't know the posture well, is they'll bend the knee and fall backwards, then get stuck here. Not realizing that what they have to do is brace themselves and sit forward. Once again, as you come into the posture, take your hands behind you and sit forward so that your left knee drops and your right knee points up. This should be, again, a very comfortable seat. The edge of the left thigh on the floor. Let's lift the right arm on an inhale and fold forward and wrap around on an exhale. Binding the left wrist if you can. And we place the forehead on the floor. If this, again, is a little too far for you, you can keep the half lotus and just bring your hands forward. And every exhale, come a little further down, allowing your chest to come towards your calf muscle. And don't ever force it. We don't want to force the knee into an unbalanced position, or don't push through any pain in the inside of that knee joint where the meniscus is. Let's do the whole thing on the opposite side. Shake out your knees, and we'll do the opposite side. First, externally rotate at the right hip. Take the heel to the groin. For the modification, take the leg under. Otherwise, scoop it up, take the calf muscle out, and twirl the hips around so the hips are squared as best you can. The right knee drops. We'll lift and sit forward. Again, the left toes are turned out about 30 degrees. Left arm up, inhale, and fold all the way out, and then wrap, exhale. Binding the right wrist or fingers and exhaling forward and down. Now, why do this position? What's the therapeutic value? The knee joint really needs to get circulation. The knee joint doesn't get a lot of blood circulation or nutrition. So by doing positions such as Lotus, Half Lotus, or Marichyasana B, we're bringing a lot of nutrition into this synovial joint. And it creates a suppleness that we can keep throughout our lives. So when we do sit in postures like full Lotus or any seated position, any cross-legged seat at all, this Marichyasana B allows us to sit with no aching in the knees. And hopefully that'll help with our meditative practices.